Right, this is a video on the gauges that I've bought for a overlander that I'm doing a job on. These have come from a company called Europa. I'll just bring their details up. So if I bring that up there, you'll be able to see. The guy here to contact is a guy called Sean. Really helpful. Helped me out. Gauges they couldn't get hold of, they just contacted the main agent and the manufacturer, SPA, over in Oxfordshire, and got the other stuff that I wanted. There's a bit of a lead time because they weren't in stock and they were waiting for parts to come in, but yeah, this is the company. This is where they're based. But yeah, and they do a range of stuff. I just click on here, all sorts of stuff. I click on to interior. Again, lots of different stuff to do with classic cars, kit cars, anything to do with building cars. They do a majority of stuff, specialising in all sorts of stuff. But that's who I bought it from. And the guy to contact is Sean there. So the other stuff that I wanted to show you now is the actual gauges. So if I go to the website for them, which is SPA, and the company that manufactures these, they used to be manufactured by another company. So we'll have a look here. So they were manufactured by ProTrust Solutions, but for some reason they stopped doing them, and I'm not too sure the reasons on it all, but from how I've took things, Race Parts UK over in Oxford, in Oxfordshire, they took them on, and then they started to manufacture them and distribute them across the world. Nice guy I spoke to there was Simon. He's on the sales team, I think, who I dealt with there, getting information. I think, well, I'm not saying he was sales, he was technical sales. And the actual technical information, there's a guy there called Nigel, and he is like their tech guy, engineer, who knows the gauges inside and out, how you program them, how you set them up. I spoke to him mainly on the fuel sender that I've ordered, the fuel gauge, and how I was going to get that to work with an old style fuel sender. And he said there'd be no problem at all. You just have to empty the gauge, fill it up in litres at set points, so 5 litres or whatever, and do it in increments, and then allow the gauge to calibrate, so then it'll work from empty to full and show you the correct reading. But that'll be in another list video. So for now we'll concentrate on these gauges I've got here, and that's it. But just to quickly go through what gauges they do, because they do an array of gauges, Race Parts. Loads and loads of gauges that they do. So if we just quickly go over what they actually do. So if I literally, there is loads and loads and loads. There's not loads, but there's enough. If you was to have them all individually, then there'd be loads, but they've doubled these up. So just on to one of the gauges and what they do. So if I was to go back, and then that's the other set of gauges they do. There's a good few gauges that they do. And then if you say, let's just, argument's sake, click onto one, you can go to downloads, then download the PDF, and then literally all the information about all their gauges in this one PDF. So the beginning part is all the information that is generally about the gauge itself, and then as you go down and through, you start to find the gauge that you've actually ordered, and then that gives you more details on how to program it, etc, etc, and the do's and don'ts you do for that particular gauge. But this shows you the ping order or configuration, for the thermal coupling, for the turbo EGR and all that, I believe. These are the do's and don'ts you do for the gauges. And then further down is how you program them. Your technical spec, voltage, etc, etc. But yeah, if you go to Race Tech, if I could just click on, let me go back to, that's where they're based. So if you ever want any information on these, either go to these guys or Europa, and they'll be able to help you out. But these guys here do a phenomenal amount of different bits and bobs to do with the racing scene. So have a look on both websites. Right, now let's get started. So, pull this out of the way. So, this is just to show you what I've ordered. So I've got the DG203B, which is the dual oil pressure and oil temperature gauge, and then the DG203B is the oil temperature and water temperature. I'm guessing the B at the end is the black face. If it had a W on it, it'd be a white face, because that's what they do them in, white and black. The beginning part and the numbers are the actual individual gauges of themselves. So, right then, I did read on one forum when I was looking into all of these, one guy said they were a bit of a bugger to get into if you open up top side. So I was told, he said, should open them up the opposite way or something like that. So let's have a try and see. I understood what he meant when going through it all, and what he actually meant by it, because he had a picture, but he said they were easier to get into from the bottom. So I can have it, and now I can see why, because maybe if that was that way you wouldn't be able to pull it out. So yeah, open them from the opposite side. Right, there we go. There's a box. I do like the box, quite fancy actually, with the angle, so you see it as you pull it out. I'll give you a quick show. One thing I've noticed straight away is powder coat's rather thick, which is a good thing, because on some of these cheaper gauges they've done it rather thin, and over a year or two that starts to show, start to get a bit of a bubble where I'm guessing moisture and all that starts to lift, where these have got a nice thick coating of powder coat. which is a good thing. You can tell by just looking at it, it's got a nice feel of powder coat. Even on the edging, which you get a lot of powder coating, which is very thin, it's nice there as well. Well impressed with that. So if we take the gauge out, let's have a quick look at that to start with. So you got your oil at the top, you got water at the bottom, you got an LED at top and bottom, I'm guessing there to indicate when there's a high temperature. They also have alarms built in, so that indicate, it'll flash, it'll bleep at you when you've got over your temperature, etc, etc. If you have a look at the PDF manual, goes into all the different things you can do with these gauges. But back to the gauge itself, no, the powder coat is nice, it's good quality. I do like the O-ring that they've done. That's a nice, so when you press it in, sit it on the gauge, it's not sitting on the metal. One thing I do notice with gauges, when they crimp them down, yeah. What you could do, just not default to the gauge at all, but just tiny bit of paint just on them bits there, because whereas they've crimped them down and pressed them in place to keep the front on, it damages the powder coat, and over time these will start to get moisture, and these might not, but previous stuff with powder coated, most of the material stuff, the metal stuff that I've ever had powder coated, I always have galvanized first. And then I put them in an oven to draw out all the moisture, etc. out of the metal and the galvanized, and then I powder coat them. And then if they ever get knocked, scraped, scratched, chipped, they don't start to rust from underneath, and then eventually within 6 months the whole item's looking terrible. At least when they're galvanized, it stops that. But yeah, bit of paint there just to stop anything over the time lifting. But otherwise, no, really nice. I'm well impressed with them. Well impressed. It's nice that they've used stainless steel on the nuts and the bolts. Otherwise, no, really nice. One thing I do notice with some gauges is, especially doing show cars and display stuff, not having these done in an environment that's dust free, and you get little spits inside sometimes. Notice that on some Durite and other gauges that I've had in the past and played with and fitted. These look nice and clean though. Yeah, and another video when we fit these, you'll get to see it actually lit up and functionable. But for now, that's that. Right, to the content. So, in this, we've got a bag of bits. So, we got nuts and locking washers, again all stainless steel, which is good to see. Push button, that's for the controlling and setting stuff on the gauge. But no, nice to see that they're in stainless. We've got real nice quality stainless steel backing plate holder. A lot of time these are just zinc coated and very thin. It's nice to see that that's thick and it's been pressed and machined, well, not machined but pressed nicely. See the markings. But no, that's good as well to see. And yeah, it's been tidied up as well because it's not got these sharp edges. Right, so put that one there. That's the temperature probe or the oil probe. It's nice to see that it's got heat adhesive heat shrink instead of just normal heat shrink, so that will stop any water or anything getting through, so that's good to see. These are a 1/8 MPT thread, so I don't get that mistaken with a 1/8 BSP, because they are slightly different. Very slightly, but they are different, trust me on that. I think these are a 60, where BSP is a 55 pitch or something like that. But they are different. Only by minor, by 0.5, but they are different. But back to that. Connectors, they're nice. I've seen these type of style of connectors on some of the truck light military stuff that I've had from the US when doing Hummers. The 24 volts. I've also seen some of this stuff on the British military lights as well. But no, that's a nice. The actual length of these, so from cable is 160 mil. So there's a bit of length there to be able to fit it and manoeuvre in, so that's good. But that's the gauges, I mean not the gauges, the sender. Now to the actual wiring loom itself. So what we got here. So again, well, from the heat shrink, we have 1, 2, about 2.4 meters of cable length. Again, we've got the nice fittings. Also, which is a nice touch, you got each one that tells you temperature 2, temperature 1. So that's cool. So you know which one's what when you write with your notes. Again, these are all adhesived. Nice to see. Now to the actual connector end. So we've got our earth, we've got our live, we've got our 2 probe cables, and then we've also got the push button that controls it. Now that is 450 mil, so just under a metre long. So that's good. You can have that in different places. For this particular build, I believe these are going to go next to each of the gauges. But on some of these gauges, which you've got like brake bias and all that, these will go down where either the driver wants them or the co-pilot, so they can alter them. Now, you can put these anywhere, but these are technically going to go like that next to each of the gauges, so they can be altered on this particular vehicle. But standard connector, which will go in like that. So let's have a look. So if we we're going to do it, it would go like that, which is nice. There you go. It's a nice fit. Looks tidy as well. Very professional. Easy to get off as well. And that's it basically. Even the cable is good quality. And believing that this is probably a higher grade cable because of the where it's running and the heat and all that. So these will be of a certain level. This will be just for going inside the vehicle. One thing I would do is I'd fuse that. It doesn't need to be anything big. This is going into a Land Rover, an Overlander Land Rover, and for my previous experience, Land Rovers have their own unique wiring problems, so it might be good to fuse that one. This one, the Earth, it does say in the do's and don'ts that it has to be grounded to the chassis. Can't be taken off other stuff, it has to go directly. But I've not read the manual fully yet, so something to read into and have a look and do all what it's telling you to do. But otherwise, that's it. Yeah, very tidy, very nice looking. Do like the presentation of how the gauges come in the box. That's quite a nice touch. And that's it. So, very nice. I will put them back in the way that it's supposed to go. Now, if we go to the other gauge, we'll do that in another video. So you've got to look at 40-50 minutes of video. So this will be done in another video. So thank you very much and hope you enjoyed.